morning, class. Welcome back to ELA with me, Miss Simpson. Okay, so just like any other day, we're going to get started with our little housekeeping, if you will. Okay, so make sure that you have all submitted last night's homework. Write down your homework for tonight, and then I want you to get started on that warm-up. In your ELA notebook, I want you to answer, what is figurative language, and please give me an example. All right, so that should take you about 5 minutes to complete. If you finish ahead of time, in the Zoom chat, I just want you to write something that you're looking forward to. Not necessarily for the new year, just something, anything you're looking forward to, like your favorite TV show coming on, or I don't know, seeing some family, anything. Okay, so you all can get started on that. Okay, so by now you should have all completed the warm-up and written down your homework. Okay, so someone says they're looking forward to their favorite sports team playing. Okay, that seems fun. My mom making good dinner tonight. Okay, great. Yeah, I would look forward to a great home-cooked meal. Okay, so can anyone answer the warm-up for me? What is figurative language? Okay, yeah, great answer, okay? So figurative language is any language, either words or phrases, that is used in writing to create different meanings and interpretations from the actual or literal meaning. So instead of saying, I went to the store, you're gonna say it in a more colorful way, and just, you don't want to be so literal, you want to make it fun. Okay, so can somebody tell me why an author or anybody might use figurative language instead of literal language? Okay, yeah, so to make things more interesting, definitely, like I said, nobody wants to hear a boring story. I went to the store, I bought a book, it was great, I went home. That's blah. Okay, no one's going to read it again. So authors use figurative language to make things more interesting and colorful and just more enjoyable for the reader. Okay, they also use figurative language to help readers create their own mental picture of the story, which also kind of relates to allowing readers to create their own personal meaning for whatever it is that they are reading. Okay, so we might read the same book, but we might derive different meanings from it. That's special to us inside. Okay. And then it also allows readers to create emotion and feelings about the literature that they're reading. Okay, so moving on to today's lesson. So we're going to use that knowledge that we just sprung up, from the past about figurative language. So I want you to keep all of that in mind moving forward with the lesson. So today we will interpret the meaning of a haiku by identifying and analyzing the use of figurative language by the poet, okay? And then eventually we're going to use all those skills that we've learned to write our own haikus. Doesn't that sound fun? All right. Okay, so can anybody tell me what a haiku is? I know you guys might have learned about it in the past, so just, is there anything you guys remember about what a haiku is? Okay, great. Okay. So haiku poems they derive from Japanese culture. It's a poem that usually has 3 lines and follows a simple structure based on syllables. So first line has 5 syllables, second line has 7, third 5 syllables. Now you will see later on that not all of the haikus fit this specific structure, and that is because they may have been written in another language, and then once they're translated to English, the syllables don't match up, okay? But for the most part, it does follow this 5-7-5 structure. Now, if you forget what the structure is, here is a haiku to explain what haikus are, okay? So I'm first with 5, That is the first line, and if you count it out, there are 5 syllables in that line, okay? Then 7 in the middle, so the middle line has 7 syllables. Again, count it out, that comes out to 7 syllables. 5 again to end, so the end of the poem, last line, again, 5 syllables, okay? So keep that in mind moving forward. So now, haikus they're very short poems, as you can see, only 3 lines long. You can't really say much in that. So haikus are usually share a brief or a small moment. Something very simple, hearing the sound of a doorbell or watching a drop of water come from a faucet, literally anything. So they're usually about nature, life, deeper meanings of simple things, like I said, watching a drop of water, seasons, months, animals, celebrations, etc. So many different things that they can be written about. So like I said, the perfect purpose is a short and brief moment, okay? So because of this, it allows the poet wants the reader to interpret their own meaning, like what personal meaning can you get out of this poem? It's something very short and simple that can be pretty much applied to anybody. Like anybody can read a haiku and kind of relate it to themselves in some way or another. So that is the point of it. They want to give you something very short that there's so many different interpretations too, that it can help anybody. Okay, and the last line is usually a surprise or an aha moment. Now, can anybody tell me where they've seen or heard of an aha moment before? Okay, yep, narratives. Anything else? Other poetry? Okay, great. So, yep, an aha moment. You've seen it before. It's like a big reveal, a surprise, just like a turn of things. Like the reader, we find out something that we didn't know before, or something that has changed throughout the poem. It's not keeping the same consistency. So we will see that later on, the same as you have in past units. Okay. So now, in your own words, I want you all to go to menti.com, click here, and you are going to describe what a haiku is in your own words, okay? So for me, let's say imagery, brief moment, and what else? Any suggestions? Okay, nature. Okay, so you're going to submit that. And then if we want to look at the results, okay, so as you can see here, the bigger words are the words that most people said. So a lot of people said figurative language, so I'm glad you all remember that. We have brief, nature, short, similar to brief, and imagery. Okay, great. So you guys got some good things going on there. So now we are going to move on. Oh, we're not going to do that yet, actually. Just stop screen sharing. So now what I am going to do with you guys is we're just going to go over a few haikus, and we're just going to look at the figurative language and see how together we can interpret different meanings, okay? So now Matsuo Masho, he is a very well-known Japanese poet. He's known for writing haikus. They're very famous. So we're going to read a few of his as well as a few others, okay? So we have The Old Silent Pond. An old silent pond. A frog jumps into the pond. Splash. Silence again. Okay, so I'm going to read that one more time. An old silent pond. A frog jumps into the pond. Splash. Silence again. Now, can anybody tell me any figurative language that they see here? Okay, yep. We have this. Does anybody remember what this is? Yes, an onomatopoeia, a word that makes the sound it's saying, okay? Great. So here we have the old silent pond lingering these ellipses. This helps us know it's lingering on, you know? That really gives us some imagery through the words and through the punctuation that the author decides to use. So an old silent pond, what do we see? You know, it kind of gives the impression of something dark and gloomy and very silent and still, right? Okay. And then a frog jumps into the pond. Now, what have you seen? You kind of imagine, you know, this very still place, and then a very lively green frog that's kind of bright jumps in, you know, kind of contrast the first line. Splash. Now, again, that splash is a contrast of this silent, right? It really helps you create an image in your head of what is happening in this moment, okay? And then we have silence again, but now we have a period. So it's more definite, more ending, you know, not really lingering on like the first line of the poem. Now, this haiku was very, very brief, you know, it's just giving that moment of a regular pond, a frog jumps into the pond, that's it. You know, that probably happens so much in nature, but you know, the way that the author wrote out the haiku, it really allows us to create an image in our head and just figure it out. So now, what is a meaning that you might be able to interpret from this poem? Okay, great. That is a great answer. Okay, you know, so someone just said that you can apply it to life, you know, maybe that your life is just going one way and then maybe a big event or something big happens and it kind of shakes it up a little, you know, the pond isn't silent anymore, your life isn't going on that straight path anymore, right? But then you might get back to it, you know, so maybe something, maybe this is from the perspective of the pond, you know, a pond is just still and it's enjoying its still life. A frog jumps into it, kind of messing up the status quo, but then it says, you know, silence again, so it's back to its normal mood, you know. Any other interpretations? Okay, great. So someone says that maybe from the perspective of the frog, you know, jumping into something new and different or something that might be scary, you know, because it kind of gives off the idea that an old silent pond is kind of scary because there's not much going on there, nobody really around. All right, let's go over another one. Okay, so let's go over this one right there. Okay, so now this is by Matsu Basho. From time to time, the clouds give rest to the moon beholders. So now this is an example of one of the poems that I told you that the syllables might not actually um, match up with the initial structure of a haiku. So from time to time, that's 4 syllables, okay? So this poem doesn't really go along with that. I'm going to read it again, and I want you guys, while I'm reading it, to kind of take a closer look at the imagery, like really maybe even close your eyes. What do you think of while I'm reading this? And you know, what could this possibly mean specifically for you, okay? From time to time, the clouds give rest to the moon beholders. Okay? So, can anybody tell me what did they picture? Okay, so somebody said they pictured nighttime where the moon is out and then the clouds are slowly moving on. Okay, great. So now what might you think this poem could be about, you know? Anybody? Okay, so this poem someone says how they interpreted it. It's, the clouds, we are the moon beholders, and the clouds are normally seen as something negative, bad, cloudy day, rainy, gloomy mood, raining on somebody's parade. So clouds aren't always seen as a good thing. Everybody wants there to be sunshine and happiness. Nobody wants the clouds, right? But this poem is saying like clouds give rest to the moon beholder. So maybe the way that we can interpret this is that clouds or maybe kind of bad situations are not always as bad as we think. Maybe we need a break, or maybe it helps us interpret a situation in a different way. I think this poem is telling us that maybe we shouldn't always view clouds as a bad thing. They can give us a break, they can give us something more. Then we just have to look at it in a positive way, right? So that's a simple meaning that you can interpret from yourself. But nowhere does the poem actually say anything about bad situations or positivity or negativity. Nothing like that. We all interpret things in our own ways, okay? Give me 1 second. Water break, please. All right, moving on. So now you all are going to do this on your own. How exciting, right? This is not what I wanted you to see. 1 second. That is what I wanted you to see. Okay, moving on. So what I'm going to do now is put you all into groups of 2 to 3. You're going to go out into breakout rooms, and you guys are going to do what I just modeled for you with one another, okay? So you are going to read this poem by Katsushika Kosokai. I think I did well with that. You might not want to try. Okay, so it's called A Poppy Blooms. Now, I want you both to read it out loud, okay? So one person will read it first, the second one will go next. We're going to do the same thing. So read it, maybe close your eyes. What do you think about? What do you see, okay? And then you're going to interpret a meaning. And then again, you're going to do another Menti and answer your question here, okay? So once you guys all get into your breakout rooms, start that immediately, and then we're going to come back, of course, and discuss. Okay, so by now you should have all answered the question. Let's look at the results. The results are in, kids. The results are in. All right, let's see. Okay, so this poem is about the writing process. You write and rewrite, and eventually a beautiful writing blooms. Okay, great. That is really great. So I should have reread this to you all first, but I figured you all read it to each other, but I'll read it again for the class. So a poppy blooms. I write, erase, rewrite. Erase again, and then a poppy blooms. Okay, so someone said that this is about the writing process, and I love that interpretation of this poem. That's actually why I chose it. Great minds think alike. Okay, so I write, erase, rewrite, like just during the writing process. We write something, our first draft, we erase it, we revise, we edit so many times, not just once, 2, 3, 4, as many times as it takes to get great writing. And then you know what? A poppy blooms. Great writing blooms. We've written something amazing after all of this revising and editing and making it better. So beautiful writing, beautiful flower, it blooms the same way. All right, great. Okay, so now what I want you all to do is please answer this exit ticket. Again, another Menti, as you know, my favorite. Okay, so you're going to answer the question, How does figurative language help a reader interpret the meaning of a haiku? Okay, so take a few minutes to answer that, and then afterwards I will go over the homework. Okay, so by now you should have answered that. So let's just look over what you guys have said. Close that, close that, close that. All right, so let's see. Okay, so readers can create their own meaning. So of course, the main, well, not the main, but one of the biggest things that figurative language does, it helps us all create our own meaning, no matter what the words say. We all have different meanings. It all means something different to us. So great. So now I want you guys to remember that. Remember how we have learned how to utilize figurative language, the importance of it, and allowing readers to create their own meaning. Keep all of that in mind, because that knowledge and those skills are not going to go to waste. We are going to be writing our own haikus. We're going to become poets, okay? So, tonight's homework, as you saw before, you are, 1 second, okay, so choose a topic, any topic, literally anything you could ever possibly think of. You can write about the sound of tapping your pen, what it looked like when the sun came up, literally anything, okay? Now, then I want you to close your eyes. What makes you think of this image? Choose 5 images that will describe or relate to your topic, okay? So if I write about the sound of a tapping pen, maybe I'll do a woodpecker, that sound reminds me something similar, okay? So something like that. All right? You're just finding pictures, and that's it, and we're going to use that to help us tomorrow to use imagery. Like, we're going to use these images to really get some great figurative language to create imagery for our readers to write our own haikus, all right? So keep everything you've learned in mind. We're going to get to it tomorrow, okay? So have a great day, guys.